Welcome to the updated Dr. Bernstein podcast. Please check the description for the original sources, and all content is general in nature and should not be considered medical advice. All right, so today we're diving into, this whole Somogyi Effect thing. It's something we get asked about a lot,
Yeah.
and we've got some interesting stuff to dig into, like Dr. Bernstein's take on it, and then some newer research from PubMed. I'm kind of curious to see how it all, lines up.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one of those topics that's been debated a lot over the years. Dr. Bernstein, he's got his opinions on it, of course, as he does. And then we've got this new research. It kind of shows you how important it is to keep learning, and being open to new ideas about diabetes and all.
Yeah, totally. So for anyone who might not be familiar with it, can you give us a quick, what even is the Somogyi Effect?
Basically, it's this idea that if your blood sugar, if it goes too low at night, your body kind of freaks out, right? Like
Yeah.
it releases all these hormones, adrenaline, glucagon, all that, trying to get your blood sugar back up. But sometimes it goes a little overboard and you end up with high blood sugar in the morning.
So you wake up and your blood sugar's high, but it's not because of anything you did, really. It's like this weird delayed reaction to being low earlier.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so tricky, because you might think you need to change your insulin or something, but it's really about what happened hours ago.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does Dr. Bernstein feel about all of this?
Well, he's pretty skeptical of this whole Somogyi Effect idea. He talks about his experiences way back when he was using, like a really basic blood glucose meter.
Oh, well, yeah, back in the day.
Right. He noticed that his blood sugar would spike after he ate a lot of carbs to treat a low, and we're talking a lot of carbs.
Yeah.
So he figures those spikes were from all the carbs, not some kind of rebound effect.
So this is coming from his personal experience. He's like, I ate a ton of carbs, my blood sugar spiked, end of story.
Pretty much. And he even talks about how a doctor he knows actually went through all these medical journals looking for proof, for evidence of the Somogyi Effect, and guess what? Couldn't find any solid studies that said it was a real thing.
Wow. So we've got Dr. Bernstein's experience, this story about his doctor friend, but we've also got all this research from PubMed to look at. What's the research say?
Okay, so this is where it gets interesting. The research, it actually seems to line up with what Dr. Bernstein's saying, at least for type 2 diabetes.
Yeah.
There's this 2022 study, right? It looked at data from over 2,600 people with type 2, all using CGMs, those continuous glucose monitors.
Yeah, those things are amazing. So much data.
Yeah.
What did they find with all that data?
They saw that morning blood sugar, like your fasting glucose, it was actually lower after nights when people had nocturnal hypoglycemia, like the opposite of what the Somogyi Effect would say should happen.
Okay.
And get this, only a tiny, tiny percentage, like less than 3% of the people in this study, they had high fasting glucose after a night where their blood sugar dipped really low.
Wow. So it seems like what you're saying is for most people with type 2 diabetes, high blood sugar in the morning probably isn't from this Somogyi Effect, right?
Exactly. And actually, this study found a strong link between low fasting glucose, so like low readings in the morning, and having nocturnal hypoglycemia. So if you're consistently seeing those low readings when you wake up, it might be a sign that you're having lows at night and not even realizing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're always talking about high blood sugar, but low blood sugar is a big deal too, right? Especially if it's happening a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another reason these CGMs are so helpful. They can show you these patterns, these ups and downs that you might miss if you're just checking your blood sugar, once a day or whatever.
So we've got Dr. Bernstein saying, look, I don't think the Somogyi Effect is really a thing based on what he's seen. And then we have this research that seems to back him up, but we still need to figure out, how do we manage these blood sugar swings? If it's not the Somogyi Effect, what else is going on?
Right. So a few other things we can consider. One is this thing called the dawn phenomenon. Basically, it's your body's way of getting ready for the day.
The dawn phenomena. Okay, that sounds kind of ominous. Tell me more.
It's not as scary as it sounds, I promise. So what happens is, in the early morning, like really early, your liver starts releasing glucose into your blood. Now, this is totally normal. It happens to everybody. But for people with diabetes, it can cause higher blood sugar in the morning, even if you've been managing your blood sugar really well all night.
So even if you've got your insulin all figured out, you might still see those numbers going up when you wake up, just because of this dawn phenomenon.
Yeah, it's like your body's internal alarm clock is going off, but instead of a rooster crowing or whatever, it's your liver releasing glucose.
Oh, interesting. So how can you tell the difference between the dawn phenomenon and this Somogyi Effect if they both can cause high blood sugar in the morning?
Well, that's where really paying attention to your blood sugar comes in and talking to your doctor, of course. With the dawn phenomenon, you'll generally see this steady increase in your blood sugar in those early morning hours. But with the Somogyi effect, you'd see a dip down into hypoglycemia earlier in the night and then that rebound high.
So it's all about looking at the pattern, seeing what your blood sugar is doing over time.
Exactly. And that's something your doctor can help you with. They can look at your logbook, or even better, if you're using a CGM, they can get a really good picture of what's going on with your blood sugar.
Yeah, that's where having all that data is so helpful. You can really see what's going on.
Totally no more guessing games, right?
Okay, so we've talked about the dawn phenomenon. What else might be causing those morning blood sugar spikes?
Sometimes it can be something as simple as what you had for dinner or that bedtime snack. If you had more carbs than usual, or maybe your insulin to carb ratio was a little off, that can definitely affect your blood sugar in the morning.
It always comes back to food choices, doesn't it? It's amazing how much food affects our blood sugar.
It really is. And it's not just what you're eating, but when you're eating it too. That's something that Dr. Bernstein talks about a lot. He's a big believer in sticking to consistent meal times and avoiding those late night snacks, especially if you often wake up with high blood sugar.
That makes sense. So if you're seeing these high numbers in the morning, it's really about looking at your whole routine medications, your diet, activity, all of it, to figure out what's going on.
You got it. And don't be afraid to ask your doctor or a diabetes educator for help. They're there to help you figure things out and make a plan that works for you.
So what does Dr. Bernstein suggest for managing these ups and downs in blood sugar if he doesn't believe in the Somogyi effect? How does he approach it?
So, Dr. Bernstein is all about that low carb diet and, of course, keeping a close eye on your blood sugar. He also recommends making small adjustments to your insulin doses when you need to, rather than trying to fix big swings with a ton of insulin or carbs. He actually talks about using small amounts of liquid glucose for this because it works quickly and can help fine-tune those blood sugar levels.
Oh, interesting. So it's more about being strategic and making small changes to stay in range rather than overreacting to every little fluctuation.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really important point from this whole discussion. Whether you agree with Dr. Bernstein's ideas about the Somogyi effect or not, the big takeaway is that managing diabetes well, it takes a personalized approach. It's about understanding how your own body reacts to different things and working with your healthcare team to find what works best for you.
I like that it's about taking control, not being afraid, right?
Exactly. The more you know about diabetes, the better equipped you are to manage it.
We've covered a lot today, the Somogyi effect, the dawn phenomenon, Dr. Bernstein's perspective, all this research. Before we wrap up, are there any other key takeaways you'd want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest one is if you're seeing something weird with your blood sugar, especially high blood sugar in the morning that you can't explain, don't just assume it's the Somogyi effect. There could be lots of things going on, and it's important to talk to your doctor to figure out what's going on and how to manage it.
Yeah, for sure. It's so easy to freak out when you see those numbers.
Yeah.
But it really is different for everyone. What works for one person might not work for another. So talking to your doctor or a diabetes educator, that's key.
Totally. They can really help you put the pieces together and find solutions that work for you and, your life.
This has been, wow, a really great deep dive. We talked about the Somogyi effect, the dawn phenomenon, what Dr. Bernstein thinks, and all that research. Lots for everyone to, think about.
Absolutely. It's been great chatting about all this with you.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for listening, everyone. And remember to like and subscribe.